We were here 3 weeks ago. The difference is pretty astonishing. Lots of tomatoes on there now. There were none before. We're having very hot weather today. We want to go light on the pruning because we want the leaves to protect them from the heat. We're going to show you some issues that we've had. Oscar's going to do some thinning of the fruit. We'll be answering your comments from the past videos we did growing the world's biggest tomato. So let's do an update. I'm John Valentino, president of John & Bob's, here with Chip Valentino, vice president in charge of growing big tomatoes. Oscar the Grouch is here also, and he's using blend to grow beautiful berries and corn and grapes and watermelon and cantaloupes and tomatoes and all kinds of things growing here. We are concerned about heat. Tomatoes obviously like heat, but they don't really like intense heat, which we have here. So we want to protect them. We want to shade them, and we'll do that by not doing a lot of pruning. Some people even put shade cloth over them. We're going to shade them with their own leaves. Oscar's watering them every other day with drip irrigation. If you don't have drip and you're spraying the leaves, we want to keep water off of them while it's real hot. Watering them early in the morning, right before the sun comes out, that's perfect timing. And Oscar waters the whole garden at that time. And that's also when he starts his weekly application of Penetrate Liquid Biotiller. Some of you have been asking why, what's the idea? Penetrate Liquid Biotiller has lots of things in it that allow plants to thrive, that we market as a soil softener because it is a soil softener also, and it'll make your soil a lot more porous. Those aren't the issues here. We're kind of using it as a plant enhancer, but it fertilizes with subtle type plant nutrients that help plants prosper. If we're trying to get tomatoes to produce as much as possible, we want to maximize the health of the tomato, and that beneficial bacteria with food for the bacteria that we call Penetrate Liquid Biotiller is an excellent way to do that. It also is improving the soil while we're using it. Oscar was telling me he found some caterpillar and caterpillar damage on some of the tomatoes. You can see the holes in the leaves. When we see that kind of damage, you want to immediately pull off any invader that you can find. That's the first step. Or if you can't see them, you could spray with a couple of things. We would want something organic that is fine to spray on fruits and vegetables. Oscar sprayed with BT, which is an excellent organic beneficial bacteria. BT stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. You could also use our product that we call EnviroRepel 40. It's relatively effective on invaders like this. I'd use it once a week until you see no more sign of damage. Those are two good products that you could use, but you want to keep it organic. Both those products are good for the soil, so the whole idea of anytime we treat for pest or disease, we want to treat with something that's good for the soil, because we believe that the soil has a way of preventing those types of invaders in the future. Our Big Zacs grew like crazy, and they're just starting to bloom. They don't have any fruit because, as I explained last time, I couldn't find any Big Zac. We ended up having to grow them from seed, and it was late in the season, and so we planted really tiny little, what were they, an inch maybe? They've grown a lot, doing well. And then we've got the 2 mortgage lifters and the 2 Whoppers. Oscar's going to show us how we're going to thin the crop. We don't want to grow a lot, we just want to grow a few really big tomatoes. So we've agreed that we're going to keep only about 1/3. We're not going to do much pruning. As we said, we want them to continue to grow to protect themselves from the heat. For now, we're going to allow them to still bloom. We'll see what happens. So that's our strategy.
If we try to grow the biggest tomato, we will try to grow only 6 or 7. So we will try to leave the healthy ones. For example, this one, we will cut the small one and leave the big one. Same thing on this one.
So you're going to do that same thing on all of them. When Oscar pruned, he targeted the tomatoes that are more on the outside so that they get sun and light where they have the best growing conditions. And we didn't leave any tomatoes on the very inside where they would be shaded. We get interesting comments, which we welcome. One was about our cages. That gardener mentioned that they didn't use the stakes. Instead, they embedded the wire cage in the ground by removing a couple rows of the wire that goes across. And that's similar to if you buy them online, you don't stake them like this. And that's excellent. Nothing wrong with that. I like that method, especially if it works. We've tested it over the years and we found that tomatoes are very heavy feeders. We found better performance of the tomatoes by using a larger amount than we get that's only in the blend. And I just do it in the beginning, and I think it works great, especially if you use enough to start with. And nourished biosol, it does break down pretty slowly. And so I find that nourishes it over a long period. One of our astute viewers said, why not prune off all of the flowers and all of the fruit, leaving one single tomato per vine? Wouldn't that be the way to grow the biggest tomato? I think that's true, and that is the method that's usually used by people that are trying to grow the world's biggest tomato. And we'd like to grow the world's biggest tomato, but we'd like to grow more than one at a time so that we have a few tomatoes. But it still will demonstrate the methods by which you can grow really big tomatoes. Your point is a good one. We'd like to have a few more than that so that we can actually use them. I've heard that, but I don't know if it's true or not. I think I have tried it, but it's hard to know because unless you do side by side, one on its side and one not on its side. But in general, I haven't been planting them on their side. Would anyone want to watch if we planted next year some on their side and some side by side not on their side, and see if we have any difference in performance? Let us know in the comments below. So you're impressed with your crop even though you wish you would have planted them a little earlier?
Yeah. How old they are? No more than 2 months.
Yeah.
And you can see that.
How healthy they are. You must know what you're doing.
Oh, you are the master.
I don't know about that, but it's working. We got a great crop, great tomato plants, and beautiful tomatoes, so we think it's a system that works really well. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe and encourage others to subscribe and watch our videos and to like them. We're going to check back here with Oscar in about 3 weeks. Let us know in the comments below if there's something particular you'd like us to cover or talk about when we have our next progress check.